do have some homemade cardamom Kahlua in my kitchen that a friend
Really?
made last Christmas. You think it's okay?
It's
It's
one
got
way to
alcohol
find
in it,
out.
right? I know.
One way to find out, Aaron.
Kahlua lasts a while, right? I mean, it's
You
just sugar
should-
and alcohol.
You should just
And
drink it all
coffee.
this weekend and see if it's okay or not.
Right. Why not?
Maybe like
That's a
on
great
just
idea.
all of it on Saturday evening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I don't
thanks
have
for
any
the
issue
advice,
with that.
Coach.
Yeah, I have no problem with that.
Thank you. Hello, and welcome to Middleish, the podcast about moderation in all things. I am Erin Green.
I am Michael Gray.
Good morning.
Good morning. Well, it's afternoon
It's
here.
good afternoon to you.
So how does that work? Do you say good afternoon to me because it's afternoon, or you
It
say
would
good
be
morning?
the greeting. I think I would say good afternoon to you.
And I would
because
say good
it's
morning
my
to you.
greeting. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Glad we sorted that out after over a year of being in separate time zones and doing this.
Well, I don't know that we've ever said good morning to or good afternoon to each other
I know,
before.
I
We're
don't
like,
know.
hey, how's it going?
It's, yeah.
We're super
usually-
official.
I know. We have
Good
our shtick.
afternoon.
We have our
How art thou?
method. How art thou? How is your morning into afternoon going for you?
The transition has gone smoothly.
Good, thank God.
There was a real smooth transition from late morning to early afternoon.
Good.
So sometimes that can be a bumpy one, you know?
Well, the transition itself is only like a second, right? So
Yeah, but it can be rough, you know? I mean, you got to change your whole mindset, and no, it's been good. Are you prepared for the afternoon? Are you ready for it to, because it's
I think,
coming.
yeah, I'm gearing up. I'm prepared.
I'm glad.
I mean, I think I can make it through.
I'm glad to hear that.
Is this all we got?
Oh,
Is the best we
no,
can do?
It's not. How are you? What's going on? How's your week?
Oh, I just had a great bike ride with my friend
Mhm.
Troy this morning. And how's my week been? It's been good. I have a couple speaking engagements with some high school teams that I'm getting ready for. So I'm kind of in that mind space of trying to think of ways to engage teenagers, which is
Sex,
some
drugs,
of it-
rock and roll.
I know, I have some really great ideas that I think are great, but then I'm like, oh, I don't want to be like that totally disconnected adult up there being a nerd. And I'm
No, you
cracking
don't.
jokes that are just like crickets. Nobody's laughing, but I will have some parents and coaches in the audience. And so I'm really hopeful that if I do morph into that nerdy big sister role, that instead of the cool big sister role, that maybe the parents will have my back and they'll laugh at some of my jokes. So I don't feel like a complete idiot up there.
I like this a lot.
That's my hope. I know you want me to like video
No.
record this, right? So you
Well, maybe. I thought you were going to say you want me to fail. I don't want you to fail, but yeah, I might want you to record it. Yeah.
I hope you
just-
don't want me to fail.
No. Well, I thought that's what you're going to say. I was like, no, of course not.
We just talked about failure.
But
and
if you
it's not going to be a
do-
failure.
I'd like to see what happens.
If I fall on my face, you would like to witness it in some capacity.
It's like, I don't ever want anyone to get physically hurt, right? But I love America's Funniest Home Videos.
I know
It's fun to watch.
the emotional turmoil and trauma. Yeah.
No, you're
So
going to do great.
I've presented to plenty of teenage groups, and I feel like I have a pretty good reception with teenagers. I mean, I can crack jokes and I can laugh at myself, which teenagers like, because if you can be that self-deprecating kind of person and, and still keep it light and move on, I think teenagers can relate to that and they enjoy that.
Sure.
And, I've got a lot of engaging. It's an hour and a half presentation, and there's going to be
Ooh.
like 300 people there. I mean, it's a big gig. And
That's
so
a
I'm
big
obviously,
presentation.
I'm taking it seriously.
Yeah.
And I want there to be, one thing, the more engaging activities you have, like sometimes I go into a space of thinking of game shows and, popular games that I could turn into learning activities. And that's where I get a lot of my inspiration. And it's been really popular in the past to come up with these different engaging ways to get, and then, things are bound to happen that cause the audience to laugh or that
Sure.
get the audience engaged. And it takes up a good chunk of time.
Right.
When you're like, okay, I need more volunteers. Okay. And then you walk up to the
Yep.
stage and then, okay, give them a round of applause. And then, okay, I need
Let's
more.
applaud some more.
Yeah. So I'm looking at those kinds of things too, to just keep it as fun as possible, but they're still learning and the information kind of has a hook so that they can remember like this funny thing that someone said or did, or this fun game they played and actually learn along the way. So
it's going to go great.
Anyway, that is where my brain is
Nice.
right now.
My brain's been on presentation too, because I think I've told you, I don't know if I've said it on the podcast, but I'm doing some work with a healthcare company, some wellness coaching. And part of that is twice a month, we have like these lunch and learns. And I have one of those as soon as we're done recording this. So I spent my morning getting my little PowerPoint ready and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, great.
So, yeah. We're just a couple of presenters.
No, look at us.
Look at us. Yeah.
I still think we should take Middleish on the road at one of these
like a
points
Middleish tour.
Yeah.
I think we should
go talk to different audiences, and we're funny, we're engaging, right? I mean, we have enough of an audience.
I think we're
on
hilarious.
Here. We're better live, you guys.
Yeah. You think this is good? You ain't saying nothing. Wait till we're right in front of your faces.
Oh dear.
Wet your pants. You'll be laughing so hard.
That's a great marketing tool.
I feel like that's a real good sales pitch.
There won't be a dry seat in the house. My God.
You know how you really want to wet your pants, but you don't have a good reason? Well, Middleish is here to save the day.
Shit. All right.
Yeah.
So we are talking.
Really like there won't be a dry seat in the house. That is that is the tagline for our tour if we ever do it. 100%.
I'll be in charge. I'll be in charge of PR for Middleish. How about that?
I'm a big fan of that.
So it's funny that we're kind of talking about social acceptance and social dynamics, because we're also talking about wetting your pants as a segue into that. So I think we've already reached the low point of that. Or
the high point. I mean, it depends on how you look at it.
Well,
like we've never segued in this way before. So we're in new territory. I think this is exciting. We're exploring new things.
To be quite honest, as a triathlete, wetting your pants is completely acceptable in a race.
Yeah, I bet.
So I actually made a comment to Matt. What was it? I think we were driving somewhere and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to, I know what it was. This is funny. This is totally embarrassing story I'm going to tell because I already went into it.
I'm bored with this. This could be the whole episode.
It's about peeing on myself.
We're good.
Sorry, audience.
Take all the time you want.
Hope you laugh at this. So a couple weekends ago when we were camping and gravel riding, we had driven to the start of our ride. We were unpacking our bikes and we were just about ready to go. And I had to pee before we got on our bikes to ride. And there was like this really, really steep slope on the side of the road, but otherwise it was just barren by this pretty busy road. And I was like, well, I kind of want to, find a tree or a bush, but there was nothing nearby. So I just hopped over the really steep gravel slope, and partway through my business, I slipped and I peed all over my foot. And I was like, God dang it. And so I came back to Matt and I'm like, I just peed on myself. And he's like, what? How'd that happen? I'm like, well, I lost my footing and girls squat and it's just harder to control things. And I'm like, I haven't peed on myself since I think I was like 5 years old. And then I stopped. And I was like, actually, that's totally false. I peed on myself like every race that I've done for the last 10 years. So I will retract that statement. Anyway.
Yeah, I bet. Okay. So triathlons, how does it go? Does it go running, swimming, bike?
Swim, bike, run.
So it'd be nice if swim was last, because then you just like wash it all off.
Yeah. Well, in fairness, through aid stations, most triathletes are dousing themselves with water all the time anyway. Okay. So you're basically wet the entire race. So from the time you come out of the water,
sweat, urine,
pee, all of it,
whatever,
sports drink splashing on you. You've got
all kinds of things,
got a whole combination. It's really disgusting.
It's just a real cocktail.
Anybody who looks at a triathlete and thinks like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. And it is not glamorous. It's really, triathletes are pretty gross. And there's a whole thing about like bike shoes, like maybe don't handle the person's bike shoes too much.
Because everything heads downstream, right?
Exactly.
That would be the collection pool, would be your socks and the bike shoes.
I did discover really important ways to deodorize and clean out my bike shoes so they didn't stink. And it requires almost an entire box of baking soda, but it works.
Man, I might need to hitch up on that, because just the other day, I was out front with Sophie, and our dog Scooter was out there, and all of a sudden she goes, "Daddy, Scooter just peed on my shoe."
Oh no.
And he didn't mean to. He was just in the grass, and she was there, and he lifted his leg. And
so
we have one of her brand new shoes. Of course, a brand new shoe.
Yeah.
Is like covered in dog pee. And I've scrubbed it, and we have like some spray stuff for carpets that's supposed to break down urine. But if it doesn't work, I might be hitting you up for your baking soda tactic.
I basically just coat it with a baking soda paste with a little baking soda and water. And this is after washing it, scrubbing it with some kind of detergent. I would usually just take a scrub brush and some laundry detergent or stain remover of some kind, like you're saying, scrub it all out, rinse it really well. Let them kind of drain a little bit, and then just literally coat them with baking soda inside and out, take the insoles out, coat them with baking soda. And of course, Boise is really dry and usually pretty sunny. And so I would just set them out in the sunshine for like an entire day until they dry and kind of deodorize. And then I just brush off the baking soda, and they surprisingly, as far as bike shoes go, because bike shoes, even for just a pure cyclist, not a triathlete, bike shoes tend to stink for a lot of people.
Sure.
I have not had a problem with it. So
Anyway,
there's your little insider look into the glamorous world of triathlon.
And I hope you all are enjoying this urine episode. So,
because
it's not what we had planned, but it's where we are. So I don't know. Should we just keep going?
You didn't even get to announce like, hey, I'm going to go on a little tangent here. The tangent has already passed and is on its way.
But was it me that took us there? I mean, that's a safe bet.
But you're usually the one that says, I'm going to go on a little tangent. But
I was just following you.
It didn't. I know.
Like, she's going there.
Sorry, right. You got on the P train, and here we are. So
the P train.
Today's topic is actually it is about social dynamics and lifestyle change. And this came up because over the years, I've had a ton of conversations, and I'm sure you have too, Michael, about how someone's journey into lifestyle change and behavior change, whether it's dietary changes or, pursuing a fitness routine or just getting healthier in general, how that impacts relationships and social gatherings and conversations with people. I see there being a couple different primary scenarios that I've run into.
Yeah, so for sure. Well, and I think the issue and the reason we wanted to talk about this just at all, excuse me, sorry, coffee burps, is because it is such a common, with traditional approaches towards getting healthier and that kind of stuff, it is a common, it's a roadblock for people, or it's a hurdle that they're not sure how to get over, because typically people approach getting healthier, eating better, that kind of stuff with, like we've talked about before, these kind of rigid rules, of I can't eat this, or I'm not eating any of this. I'm not eating sugar or processed foods or whatever. And so then they get in a situation where they're not in direct control of what they're eating. Like maybe it's a party and everybody's brought something kind of potluck style, right? And you have what you brought, but everybody else brought what they brought, and that's what there is to eat. Or it's a birthday party, and maybe you've had this. I've had several times where, I'm working with a parent and it's a kid's birthday party and they're struggling with like, what do I do about the cake? Because they're in a position where they feel like they can't eat certain things are off limits, or they're restricting things and that kind of stuff. And so I think the reason we want to talk about that is this concept is because it's a situation people often find themselves in when they're trying to get healthier is I know what I'm wanting to do, but these certain circumstances or settings are making that really, really difficult or impossible to do. So, help. What do I do? And
Yeah. And
yeah.
part of that, I think, is what you just said, that they have these very rigid rules like this is the exact way to eat. Or, part of that is, I see it being kind of this twofold problem or issue. What is it that you are communicating to the people around you, and how rigid are you with your very specific dietary practices or fitness practices? I mean, are you the one that's sending out that impression that I can't eat sugar, I can't go somewhere that has fried food or that doesn't have a, salad option? I have to get up every day and have access to a gym, when I'm on vacation or something. Like, are you the one communicating that to people? Or the other challenging issue is when people, you might mention in passing, like, well, I'm really making efforts to eat better, or, I'm really limiting whatever. I've heard red meat, I've heard carbs, I've heard dairy, I've heard animal foods in general, or whatever. I'm really trying to limit alcohol, those things. People hear that and all of a sudden they take it. So your social circle, your friends or your family take it into, oh, well, you can't have that, or we can't eat here because so-and-so has special requirements. I actually had a client that mentioned this. He was on a work trip and his friends that he was traveling with were constantly kind of making, and we didn't get to actually have a conversation about this. This was through like email and notes that we were sharing. This experience, but his colleagues were making comments about, oh, we can't eat here because he needs something special, or he's trying to eat better. And so we can't have this. He can't have that. He can't have that. And so to me, I was like, well, let's dissect this a little more. Are you telling your friends that you need to have this very strict and rigid eating pattern or these very specific foods, and you, quote, can't have those foods? Or are your friends kind of taking this and spinning with it and presenting this as a challenge or an obstacle? Because they're very different and it's a tricky dynamic.
Sure, absolutely. And I think you're right. It's a good point, because people do often make assumptions about, if you've made it known that, hey, I'm just trying to eat better, trying to eat, whatever, then, whoa, well, we got to accommodate, that kind of thing. Do you get that being a, triathlete, dietitian? Do you get those assumptions about you pretty commonly, like in social settings, like, oh, I'm surprised you're eating that because
absolutely,
you do what you do.
Yes. And in fact, I would say my close friends and my family well, I shouldn't say my family, because I'm not around my family as much. And so when I do visit my family, there are these assumptions about, oh, well, Erin needs this. Like Erin needs to have vegetables with her meal. I mean,
do we have
just
kale
kind of
and
like
boiled
basic,
chicken on the menu?
No,
because Erin's coming. So
I mean, literally, like, I just would like a vegetable serving with my dinner. It could be canned. I don't care, but do we have a vegetable in the house? And that's just like basic, health and attention to my normal dietary practices, but I'm not super picky in that sense. So I have gotten that before when I go home for holidays and stuff. Oh, well, Erin wants this and Erin wants that. And I'm like, look, I'm not being picky. This is just, don't other people in this room eat vegetables too? Like, does anybody else care about having
so you're a little bit of
protein
a problem.
options?
Not a huge problem, but a little bit.
But a little bit. Yeah. I'm a moderate problem, middleish problem.
She's a middleish
That's me.
problem.
I'm a middleish problem. But my close friends that I'm with a lot, I tend to have similar eating practices anyway. And so they build out meals. Like if we have a potluck, there is some discussion on, well, who's bringing, the protein dish, or who's bringing the appetizer, or who's bringing this or that, or, you don't want like 5 pasta salads at this gathering.
You don't?
Maybe you do.
I don't know. Sounds like we're having a pasta salad off, and that sounds kind of fun to me.
Just from a pure variety standpoint,
No,
I
yeah, you're right.
personally wouldn't want that.
No.
But I do get comments like with my previous job with the health department, you know, these are my coworkers. They see me every day, but it's not like they know me outside of work. And there was just definitely this stigma with the dietitians, you know, oh, well, they won't eat that, or they won't, you know, and I didn't even have like a couple of the dietitians I worked with were pretty much vegan, vegetarian for sure, but close to vegan. So they were very particular about what they ate. I was like, look, I want nourishing food. I want balance. I want something that will help me feel good because I'm training and I, you know, need to function the rest of the day, that kind of stuff. But I wasn't picky yet. There was this assumption that Erin, I remember a coworker would make homemade brownies and bring them to work on occasion. And she was like, oh, you probably don't want one, but there's that's how she started the conversation. She came into my office and was like, but I'm telling you anyway, there's brownies in the break room, but you probably don't eat that stuff. And I'm like, when have I ever turned down one of your homemade brownies? I mean, seriously?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a long-winded answer to say, I get that a lot. And in my case, from my perspective, it tends to be people's impression of how the dietitian eats or how Erin eats because she's the healthy one
versus your requests or demands or anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same. Yeah.
Do you get that?
I mean, people, you know, will, you know, say things like, oh, I'm surprised you're eating that, you know, and it's like, why? You know, I was asking like, why? Well, because, you know, you're a trainer and you're a nutrition coach and if you're going to have this judgment on me, explain yourself, defend your position. I'm not going to do it for you. I'm not giving you the answers. You tell me, come on, tell me why I can't have this. And
just where that belief comes from and those people. I do think that some of that is people sort of projecting their own discomfort with if there's somebody that is very comfortable with their approach to food and very vocal about maybe their needs in a group. I think that sometimes the rest of the group members can start sort of projecting their discomfort and turning, kind of spinning it in this way, like, oh, well, you are a special case or you're sort of a problem, when that's really not what's happening. That person is just expressing their needs. Or their desires, you know, or exercising those needs. Like if somebody just declines having a glass of wine at an outing because, you know, they, for whatever reason, it's their own personal decision. Yet there's kind of this social, like, oh, you're being good. And so the rest of us are being bad. You know?
Yep. And I think a lot of times it's a great point. And I think a lot of times, like you said, it's like, it's trying to reconcile their beliefs with what this person who works in this field is their actions, right? Like, wait. So if I want to be healthier, I can't eat sugar or anything processed. But this person who helps people get healthier is eating sugar and things that are processed. What is happening? Like, you can't do that. You're not supposed to do this. Like, I don't understand. And it's because of this, you know, this whole like lifetime of bizarre, bonkers messaging that we get about food and what's healthy and what isn't, and good and bad, and morality with food and how that reflects on you as a person and stuff. That then I think they're just in that moment trying to go like, help me understand this, because this makes zero sense right now.
It's not jiving. I can't, I can't reconcile with that idea that the dietitian is okay eating. I even got asked a few times, do you eat like a burger and fries? Like how many times a year would you say you eat that? And do you eat the whole thing?
6 times a year.
And do you eat it? And I'm like, well, when I want to, I will, but I don't. I mean, there's a lot of other foods that I enjoy eating too. So, you know, I also get like the whole, Erin, don't look at what I'm eating. Like I'm on duty all the time as the food police.
Or like you give a shit.
I know, but I really don't. I mean,
like I could care less about anyone's individual meal ever. Like ever. I mean, sure, we can look at consistency of things, but one individual meal in and of itself, like I don't care. If dinner was brownies, cool. I bet that was fun. whatever.
Well, and unless you have hired me to
Mm-hmm.
do that job, I am not going to do that job. Like that's
Exactly.
not my job.
Yeah.
So for those clients, I tie this back into those people who are making the efforts to change certain lifestyle behaviors, whether we were talking a lot about food, but exercise I see being a similar problem.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody wants to move their body daily, they want to go out for a walk, and I get the same thing. Like I need some outdoor time or I need some movement time, get my heart rate up. I can take days off. That's fine. But I
Mm-hmm.
still would like to do something easy,
Yeah.
joyful movement, whether that's
Right.
going for a walk or gardening or whatever.
Pee in your
And
pants.
peeing, yeah, peeing always feels good.
Hey, you know what? That is a true statement.
Go on a coffee mug.
Well, I guess maybe it sometimes
Are
doesn't
we
feel good.
keeping, are we, are we
Maybe if you're
keeping
taking
tabs on?
penicillin along with it.
God. Oh boy.
Yeah.
So
And now we're
yeah,
on to STDs.
I can, oh geez. Nope. We're moving on. We are not, yeah, past that one. So I
Yeah.
get those comments too about, well, Erin needs to go get exercise, or, you might, as a listener, you might run into that too. If you prioritize going to the gym, or maybe you have a favorite class that you do, or maybe you love morning yoga, it starts your day off correctly, whatever it is. Um, I think that people can often, again, kind of project their own guilt or their own discomfort with your dedication to your routine, and it creates a really sticky spot for that person. Like you and I have enough people in our lives that support these things that we do, and probably enough people in our social circle that do similar kinds of things, that we don't feel like outcasts.
Right.
For the most part.
Yeah.
I think that we have several listeners or, people that we work with who are the only person in their circle of friends or in their family that are really trying to make certain changes. And that can just really suck sometimes.
Yeah. It can be tough. If I mean, it's frequent that, I'm working with someone, I'm sure it's the same for you, who's wanting to, incorporate more fruits and vegetables and cook more, and that kind of stuff. And the rest of the family is like, we like grabbing fast food every night. So yeah. And it can be a real tricky situation because someone either, resigns themselves to, well, this is just what's easiest for the family as a whole, or, okay, we're going to have some serious knocking heads here, or, all right, well, I'm going to do my own thing while they do their thing. And which just puts people in a position of just feeling isolated, I think, in what they're going through and what they're trying to do. And that can be a real tough position to be in when you feel like in your immediate circle, you're kind of on an island, trying to steer a ship that doesn't want to be steered in a different
because
direction.
you can't force anybody else to change what they're doing. And I see this being more problematic for those people who are very giving of themselves, maybe have been caregivers for their entire family, have always, put their needs aside for others. And I have coached people through this kind of thing where, maybe it's a, husband-wife dynamic, or just a partnership dynamic where they're really worried about their partner or their spouse or their significant other. And, oh, that person likes to sleep in, and so I'll sleep in a little longer. And then they skip their morning training session. And then they go through this whole day of beating themselves up and trying to catch up and feeling like they're off track and off the back foot. And they're like, oh, I'm going to do this tomorrow. Tomorrow will be better. And then it happens again.
Right.
And it's always because they're giving of themselves and thinking about the other person. And when I explore this with people, a lot of times I'm like, well, what would your partner say if you got out of bed and got your workout, got up at 5 a.m. like you say you want to do? Like, I'm hearing you tell me you want to do this thing. What would your partner say? Or how can you play that out in your head? How do you see this playing out? And most of the time they're like, actually, they probably wouldn't care. they're sleeping anyway. Like why, they don't care. I'll
Right.
get up and sneak out and go do my thing. And so then it becomes like, so what is really at play here? Are you
Right.
anticipating that this is going to be an issue
Making
in your relationship?
assumptions. Hmm.
Totally.
Yep.
And so I see that a lot with that giving kind of personality that's always worried about the everybody else in their
Right.
family or social circle and not really thinking about themselves.
Right. Because I think those giving personalities so often are looking out or making sure that they're not causing issue for anyone.
Yes.
That
Yeah.
there is a lot of that assumption of like, I'm going to just go ahead and decide for you what your response. So there's not even the issue of tension between us in this
Yeah.
conversation. I'll just make it easiest for you. Yeah.
Yes,
Yep. And
absolutely.
yep. I think people who are really those really big givers are, I'm going to say toughest. I don't mean that in a bad way, but some of the toughest clients to work with, because it's hard for them to kind of turn that energy back into themselves, right? And realize
Absolutely.
that, hey, all this giving that I'm doing, some of that's got to go to me, because
Hmm.
otherwise I'm just spending energy and time and attention, right? And I'm never returning it. And it can be tricky for those people to learn to really dive into like deep places of self-care, because it's really foreign to them, because I take care of everyone
Hmm.
else, right? Like I don't worry about this because that's how I have more time and energy and attention to put on these people. And it can be tricky for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and like you've said before, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Right.
So for those people that think that they're doing the right thing by giving, giving, giving all the time and by, avoiding any tension or
Mm-hmm.
inconvenience or confrontation or even the potential for that,
Mm-hmm.
you're honestly doing a disservice to the world because you're probably not able to bring the best version of yourself
Exactly.
to the world. And your friends would appreciate this, renewed, energized, content, and healthy version of you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Oh, go ahead.
think of it that way,
Yep.
that you can bring the best version of yourself
Exactly.
forth.
And I think that's a really strong way to approach people who have that sort of personality or mentality is, listen, you want to give bigger, like you want to do even more
Yeah.
than you're doing because this is so important to you. Let's make that happen by filling that cup up, having reserves, right? Like you take care of you got more energy to give, and you want to be a giver. Let's make you an awesome giver, and a lot of times
Yeah.
people really connect with that, like, oh, I can do this even better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a great way to try and, reach those people um
Yeah, because
on
that's a
that
that's a
level of
real big
that's what
value.
they
It's
want to
it's
do.
an
Yeah.
important thing to them. It's part of their identity, and it's like, hey, you want to level up in that? Cool, let's do that.
Right.
Let's put some of that on you.
Mhm.
So okay, so let's say you're working with a client, and they're working on eating better, more nutrient dense food, all that kind of stuff, being mindful of hunger cues, all that stuff, and they're going to, let's say, a birthday party or a social event, a potluck or a vacation, that kind of stuff, where they're worried about like, how do I continue to push into the places that I'm trying to push into, as far as just giving my body, higher quality nutrients and that kind of stuff, and not feel like I'm the weirdo on the outside who has to bring their own meals to everything.
Yeah.
What are some places, strategies, tactics that you
Yeah.
have clients do?
Well, first of all, bringing your own entire meal, it's different bringing a dish to a potluck, but if
Mhm.
you're like going out to eat with people and you bring your own food and you don't order from the menu, that's a disordered eating behavior.
Yeah.
So, huge red flag. If you get into that space where you truly cannot relinquish control to go to a social function and order from the menu or eat what is served to you, maybe seek some help for that kind of behavior because that's a big red flag.
Yeah.
Now, if I have done my job effectively, hopefully when people are confronted with that kind of um, situation, we can first talk about, okay, well, you can trust yourself in any food situation. We have
Mhm.
learned some different tools, trusting your hunger and fullness, looking for making the choices that taste best to you and best serve you nutritionally, and getting to know kind of how you feel when you eat certain foods. Also, just knowing that one meal doesn't make or break your nutrition, or even one weekend or whatever
Right.
it is. The one vacation, I mean, your health is on this continuum, and it goes on indefinitely. So you
Mhm.
have more and more opportunities to take good care of your health, and also opportunities to, maybe set some of the rigidity aside and just
Right.
enjoy the experience and just eat what you like and just be present.
Yep.
So we talk about those things. And then from a practical standpoint, like, okay, let's look for color. We know that fruits and vegetables and lean protein are probably the hardest things to really
Mhm.
find when you go out to eat or when you're at a party, depending on the setting, of course. But carbohydrates and processed foods and chips and these other delicious foods, but they're probably in abundance. And so you might have to put a little more effort to finding some of the color,
Mhm.
looking for some of those options, and how can you fill your plate with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
If that means bring your own option that is like, okay, I'm going to bring, this dish that I know is, really good. It tastes good. I enjoy eating it. And it has some of the components that I think might be in short supply at this party or function. Do
Right.
that. If that helps you feel a little, I mean, not just comfortable with what you're putting on your plate, but there might be other people there that are appreciative that you
Right.
brought an option that's not just like fried or processed.
Mhm.
So I think there's some practical things that people can think about, but
Mhm.
without having that hard and fast rule that, oh, my plate has to look like this. I have
Right.
to have a serving of this. I can't have that. I can't have cake, all of that stuff. Like,
Yeah.
just at the very baseline, enjoy the experience of
Right.
whatever that function is.
Absolutely. Yeah. Pretty similar here for me. I think, you know, I usually have like two objectives in that situation. And the first is let's like take away the power that eating something quote unquote that you shouldn't eat has over you. Okay, let's
Mm-hmm.
address that. And I think a good way to do that is okay. Let's say you go to this event or whatever, and all you eat in the whole night is pizza and chips and ice cream. Let's say
Mm-hmm.
that's the whole meal. What does that do? What does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like let's think about that individual meal. And in the course of, that day, that week, that month, and the rest of your life, like what significance does this have? And usually people are like, yeah, okay, not really much, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's not like this really like pivotal event, you know what I mean? That's going to like
Right.
shape the rest of your future.
Right.
Which quick side note, like you said, you've got all these like days ahead of you, right, to invest in your health. You also have the days behind you, right?
Totally.
Like you've got
Yes.
all this consistency behind you too that absolutely matters.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's like, okay, let's acknowledge that you can't really do anything in a meal. I mean, you really can't, you know? And so going in with that mindset of, okay, so whatever I do, it's going to be fine. And so then we've got I think we've taken some power away from pizza and chips and casseroles and, whatever.
Right.
And, but hey, let's talk about some guidelines, you don't have to follow them, but if you want to make this, if you want to practice some of this more mindfulness stuff, cool, we can do that. Do it or don't. I don't care, but yeah, let's look for a lean protein. Let's look for some vegetables, maybe scan. You've talked about this before. Look at kind of all the options and go, okay, what do I really want?
Mm-hmm.
Like let me be mindful about my choices here. And if that's the pizza and chips and ice cream, cool, do it. But so often we get in the situations like, well, I'll just take some of everything. And then there's stuff here I don't really want, but it's on my plate. And Susie brought it, and I'm going to
Yeah.
feel bad if I throw all her
And
stuff away.
it's
So I should
my
probably eat it.
only opportunity to eat this food is this day. That's
Right.
another really
Right.
sticky one. I
Yep.
better do it while I have the chance
Right.
and
That's
while I'm
scarcity
allowing
mindset.
myself.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Absolutely. And then I think you can go into those situations with like, okay, I feel more at peace because I'm not like trying to white knuckle everything, right? And like resist, be good, be good, be good. I can go into it going like, okay, I can't screw anything up here. Everything's going to be fine no matter what I do. And let me be mindful about what I choose. And I think even if someone in that situation goes in and they do have pizza, ice cream, and chips, like that's the whole meal, but they do that mindfully, I feel like that's a real win there. And it's a win that often gets overlooked because mindfulness is mindfulness. Like it doesn't, I don't think it matters much as far as like what the decision is. If we do it mindfully, we're practicing and stretching and strengthening that mindfulness muscle, right? That being aware, making a conscious choice, evaluating things for a second, and then making the choice that we either feel is best or that we want the most. And even if the outcome is maybe things that aren't quite as, nutrient dense or whatever, still taking time to practice mindfulness, it plays out into other situations where you need to practice mindfulness.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of my approach with people in those settings.
That's great. And one of the things you said there is, I can't screw anything up here. Like going into that situation, I think that is a really common stumbling block for people because they feel like there's a right or wrong way to eat. And this is going back to, are you the one that's setting these really firm and rigid rules on yourself? Or is this somewhere in the expectation of, how to navigate this? And I've had a lot of people tell me, well, I just do better if I don't eat it at all. If I don't eat the thing. Well, whatever that thing is, we could call it a trigger food. There's something around that that's making you really uncomfortable, not being able to trust yourself. And there's a belief system around that food or that list of foods that is your baseline is to avoid it. When really we probably need to work on leaning into that discomfort and figuring out what's behind it. Exactly. And that is a whole different load of work that takes time. It's not going to just happen in one barbecue or one birthday party. But it is something that can happen. And I have had clients come back to me and say, oh my gosh, it's really a wonderful feeling to not be questioning everything I eat when I go to a social function, or not be worried about what kinds of foods I'm going to encounter when I go to the social function. And to just not have it be a thing when you're around other people. So on the flip side, I will say that I saw a meme just recently, and I'm trying to remember how it went, but it was something about, if you have found a dietary pattern that works for you, keep it to yourself. So on the flip side of this, sometimes people feel so great and empowered through whatever they have decided to do with their diet or fitness routine that they have to just tell the masses, okay, I understand where that's coming from. And it might even be coming from a place where you're wanting to help your friends or family. You're wanting to share all that you are learning and how wonderful it is for you. Be aware that can be a total trigger for someone else, because then you are basically telling them that their way is not the right way, that what I'm doing is better. So just be very careful about that kind of thing in social situations. Obviously, you all can gauge maybe like which circles or friends or family members are more comfortable sharing that kind of thing than others. But just be very aware that if you are embarking on your own lifestyle change journey, your own wellness journey, that sharing too much in social situations can also be a really present a challenge for those people around you. And they might be feeling a little inadequate or shameful in their behaviors, depending on how it's presented. So,
yeah, I think we had this, I don't know, several episodes ago, but it's just that whole concept, just that maxim of don't be a dick. That's all.
It's pretty, I know.
Don't do it.
It's simple, but complicated. It's interesting how that happens,
it's
right?
Real complicated. You think it would be easy. It's not. It's not. I've been trying to follow that pretty, well for, I don't know, the last 20 years, and I'm still screwing up all the time. It's hard.
I think we all have those dick moments, you know. I do want to offer to those of you who are struggling with, I'm wanting to make changes and my significant other or partner or friends aren't really supporting this, or they're making comments. I would say, I mean, the first step is to really get clear with yourself why you are making these changes, what they mean to you. Because at the end of the day, it is about you.
Mm.
And for those giving, nurturing personalities, this is really hard for you to embrace. So just tell it to yourself as many times as you have to, that
Right.
it is about you. It's your choice. And this is an important choice. You know, be clear on your reasons. I would also say that if that person in your life truly cares about you, which when I ask people that, you know, do you think that your partner cares about your health, happiness, well-being, all of these things? They'll say, yes, of course. All right. Then communicate that this change that you are working toward is your effort to really take care of that piece of yourself that needs
Right.
some nurturing and needs some
Right.
attention, and ask your partner for support in these specific ways. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it doesn't have to be that your partner adopts the same eating plan as you do. It doesn't have to be that your partner goes to the gym with you. It doesn't have to be those things, but get specific about what it is you're needing from your
Right.
partner from the outset, and just be
Right.
clear on that.
Right. And then I think as you identify those things, I think it's a probably important practice, because one, it communicates that with your partner, but it also identifies them really clearly to yourself, you know?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times that's an important piece of all this, because I doubt that most people would say, well, a big objective of mine is to learn how to navigate social situations, eating perfectly and never enjoying X, Y, or Z again. Right. But
Right.
we approach those things as if that's the objective.
Yeah.
Right. Where I think most people would be like, no, I want to learn how to like navigate these in ways that continue to fuel my body, not fuel, I don't like that word for food, but give my body what it needs to
Yeah.
function in
To
the best possible
nourish
ways
your body, maybe.
in the grand scheme of things, right? Not
Mm-hmm.
like in this second it's got to be optimum all the time, right? But just like in the grand scheme of things, while learning to enjoy these foods that I really like and that make eating fun, and not feel guilt around it, and not
Mm-hmm.
feel like I've ruined everything in one moment, or further reinforcing these negative relationship with foods and my body, whatever. I think that's where most people would say that the space they want to get into, but we approach these things like, no, I'm just looking for perfection and nothing less.
Yeah.
That's my
Yeah.
only option.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Forever.
I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Well, and be a little introspective on that. If you are getting feedback from those close to you that you're, you know, being too rigid, or that you've changed in some way, or that they're seeing
You're
some
being a
things
dick.
that, yeah, that you're being a dick. Um, you know, take heed and maybe think about that, and
Yeah.
re-examine some of the ways you're approaching this lifestyle change. I also think that it should feel fairly doable and natural and enjoyable most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
There is, of course, going to be challenges and hiccups and discomfort whenever you're
Yeah.
making any kind of change, because that's why, I mean, we're creatures of habit. We've talked
Mm-hmm.
about this. Go back to like our second episode on habits,
Mm-hmm.
and listen to that. If you're, you know, questioning how those habits are built, it's going to feel like an effort in
Yeah.
some capacity for a while.
Yeah.
At the same time, there should be parts that feel really good. It shouldn't all be work, and it shouldn't all be, I have to say no to the social engagement because of this, or you know, we can't have date night because I can't eat at that place, or
Yeah.
you know, I can't go on vacation for that long because I'll be too far away from my gym. If
Right.
those things start cropping up, then re-examine maybe where your goals are and
Yeah.
how doable this is.
Yeah. Yeah. If your goals and your strategies and that kind of stuff don't allow you to enjoy moments, or situations, that's a good, I think, like red flag to go, okay, let me examine this.
Yeah.
Because I think it, like Aaron said, it's going to be work. It's going to be hard at times because change is work and it's hard. And we have to change the way we're doing things if we want to change how we're doing things. Right. But at the same time, it shouldn't be miserable.
No.
It shouldn't be so restrictive that you don't get to do things you enjoy. And if you don't ever get to do things you enjoy, whether that's eat certain foods or engage in certain behaviors or be in certain situations, this is a real strong indicator that things might need to be different than they are.
Yeah.
So.
And I think a lot of this manifests in the social space because those are tend to be the instances where this will be amplified if you're super rigid on things. Yeah. I also think it is helpful, once you've communicated to your partner, your friends group, whatever, and just let them know, that you're doing these things, or you're making an effort to do these things. Ask how they might support you, ask them for that support and the things they can do. Also invite people to join you if they want. Hey, I'm doing this, class. Would you want to come with me it's on whatever morning? Or if your partner, if you want to try some new recipes, would you be willing to do that with me? Could we have one night a week that we cook together? Those kinds of things. So you're not necessarily imparting your lifestyle changes or belief system or anything on those people, but you're inviting them in.
Yeah.
And it's a total open invitation. They could totally decline it and be like, no, peace out. I'm sleeping in. Yeah. Or, I really don't like cooking. I don't want to try it. But my experience has been when you have those conversations and you present it in a way that I want you to be part of this with me. And I'm, wanting to do this. It's going to help me be a better person. And I would love for you to come along. Chances are you're going to find people that are takers on that and that want to support you, especially those people that are closest to you. But also release any expectations that they are going to immediately accept, because they might be in a space where they're not wanting to make changes or, kind of for whatever reason, they're ambivalent about that. So,
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. That's good.
And then the last thing I have for just tips on how to navigate this, one of the things people feel entitled to comment on is how you eat, what's on your plate. Like Michael and I said at the very beginning, the whole, well, you're a trainer, you don't eat that, or you're a dietitian, I didn't think you'd eat that. I have really learned to just let it go and not engage and not worry about it. I will sometimes, if it's a repeat offender and it seems to be a very pointed comment, I will sometimes engage with that and just politely, ask, does this bother you how I'm eating? Is this troublesome for you?
Why are you so concerned with what I'm eating?
Yeah. And maybe just ask, like, hey, can we make an agreement that I won't comment on your plate and you don't comment on my plate, and we can just have a pleasant meal? This might sound like some of you might be like cringing at the thought. I'm an assertive person. And so I would say this kind of thing if somebody was really, really making pointed comments toward me. But just also know that you can completely ignore those comments and simply change the subject, bring up a new topic, talk about something else, and just really decline engaging in that conversation, because it says more about that person and what their own judgments are than about what you're doing for your health. So I would say if you're not comfortable with engaging that, then just simply change the subject.
Just give them the finger and walk away.
Yeah. Fling some like mashed potatoes in their face.
Start a food fight.
That goes over well.
Yeah. And then you've created a distraction, and then focus isn't on your food anymore.
Yeah, exactly. You did change the subject. It's just in a very extreme manner.
Yeah, we got all the solutions for you today. Pee your pants,
on their foot.
Start a food fight. Flip them off. Problem solved. Okay?
Exactly.
We're doing the real work here on Middleish.
All right. Our job is done.
Yeah. I don't feel like I have anything else to add.
So we hope this conversation was helpful for you all. please
I have
subscribe and
no
share.
doubt. Yeah. Yeah. This quality podcast.
Oh boy.
Oh man.
So I know that you said you didn't have a meaning in the mundane, but I'm sure that one has come to you, but I'll go first.
That was off air. You didn't have to say that in front of everybody.
Yeah, I did.
Jeez.
Yeah, I did, because you
Right
like to
under
point it
the
out
bus.
if I'm not
never,
prepared.
ever.
All right. All right.
Yeah.
So
I actually have one.
now,
Go ahead.
oh, you came up with one.
I did. Don't act so surprised. Oh, wow.
Your brain is working.
You did what you're supposed to do. I'm shocked.
So mine was this morning. So just a quick background. I've mentioned before that we're really into the hummingbirds that come to our hummingbird feeder.
Mhm.
And we've been really enjoying it even more because in our new house, we will have a hummingbird feeder. It will just be sort of in a different part of the house. And so we'll have, it won't be just like in our faces all the time, like right outside the kitchen. So we've been really enjoying the hummingbirds outside the window, and Matt got out the binoculars this weekend and was, trying to catch her when she'd come feed. He was like pulling up the binoculars, and then she'd see the motion through the window and she'd bolt.
Mhm.
So it was like this game if he could like pick up the binoculars slowly and watch the hummingbird. And this morning, so we've had this obsession with hummingbirds lately. This morning, I went to my friend Troy's to go for a ride, and I was waiting outside for him. And I was just kind of checking my phone real quick and standing by my bike. And it's just a nice, quiet, sunny morning.
Mhm.
And I suddenly hear this bzzz, like right in my face. And I'm kind of expecting like a wasp or yellow jacket or something to be in my face. And I look up, and I kid you not, there's a hummingbird like looking me in the eye, probably inches from my face.
Wow.
And I had bright colored, like the frames of my sunglasses are bright. And so I don't know if that attracted it or the reflection or something, but it literally just came up right in my face. It was just hovering there looking at me. And I swear to God, I made eye contact with it for at least a few seconds. And then it kind of like just slowly like sort of buzzed away. And I was like, that is so cool. It was almost like it was saying, hi, isn't it a great day?
That's awesome.
I know that's my imagination, people, but
no, I
it was
think
really
it was probably
cool.
like, I like you, not the other guy. Tell him to leave me alone. I like you.
That guy with the big black things up by his eyes, like tell him to stop.
Tell him to knock it off. That's pretty cool. Any kind of like close encounter with like nature is pretty cool. Yep. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
What's yours?
So mine was, I mentioned last week that Kat and the girls were gone all week, and they came home on Friday. And then Kat was gone all day Saturday doing some stuff. And it was just Sophie and I. Lila was gone too. And so we hadn't seen, each other for like 5 days. And just the entire day was Sophie like at my side.
Oh,
like just no matter what I was doing, like she was there. Right. And so it wasn't like a moment. It was like a period of time. It was like most of Saturday was just like this wonderful, like just awesome, like I missed you, Daddy, and I am just hanging with you all day long. Everything, like going to the grocery store and doing work in the yard, doing laundry. She's folding clothes folding clothes
right
with me, and it was just it was just like, okay, it feels really nice to be so missed.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Sophie seems a little more like a daddy's girl.
Lila really is too. She's just older, and so she's more interested in friends and that kind of stuff. But I don't know if she's more a daddy's girl than a mama's girl, but she's not less either one of them. I don't think, so which is super fun. Yeah.
Oh, cute.
That's mine.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for hanging with us, audience, because we hit some topics today.
We took you on a ride.
We totally did. Oh boy.
Yeah.
So thank you for listening, and we will catch you next week.
That's good. Have a good week, everybody.